What's going on? Welcome back to my channel. Listen, man. So it seems Lil Durk might have a win in court so far because we already know his trial starts August 20th. And this is going to be pretty huge, man. You know what I'm saying? Dirk is being accused of murder for hire, you know what I mean, trying to kill rapper Quando Rondo, but they end up killing his cousin. Crazy situation, man. Like Lil Durk is one of the top like 5 top 10 best rappers in hip hop. You know what I mean? He been in jail for like a year now, which is crazy. Seems like time flying so bad, man. He been in jail for a whole year. It is crazy. But he was in court and he got like a small win. You know what I mean? I'm going to play the reaction from his lawyer and also from a YouTuber called I Am Not a Lawyer, but she breaks down a lot of cases and stuff like that. So let's react to I Am Not a Lawyer YouTube channel right quick. Let's get into it.
I'm not a lawyer, but I just got back from Dirk's July 14th, 2026 severance hearing, and it got a little spicy. So let me tell you what happened and what it means for Dirk's case. So if you've been following this case for a while, you know that back in October of 2024, 5 people were charged with the murder of Savia Robinson, aka Little Pab. About 7 months later, so in May of 2025, the government updated that indictment, which is referred to as the second superseding indictment, and they added Dirk Banks to the defendants list, alleging that Robinson's death was done at the direction of Dirk, but that the hitman actually killed the wrong person and meant to kill Robinson's cousin. So after that second indictment, and after working through some scheduling conflicts, the judge scheduled for the trial to begin on August 20th, 2026. However, on June 3rd, 2026, the government dropped their third superseding indictment. And this indictment changed the scope of the trial from being about a murder for hire and prosecutors having to prove Savia Robinson's murder to now prosecutors saying that this was actually more of a RICO and Robinson's murder was done on behalf of and in furtherance of a gang that Dirk Banks leads. And
So basically, I'm saying the prosecutor's really trying to show that Dirk and his group is a gang, you know what I mean? Racketeering and stuff like that, murder for hire, murdering people and stuff like that. Really trying to say, man, listen, this guy is dangerous. That's why he ain't been on bond all this time. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow. So it's like this is the third time that the prosecutors really trying to hammer in, like, listen, this guy's gonna be guilty. This is what we got. So they continue to throw these alley loops, and now it seems now there's a trial set date is August 20th.
activity charge, and to show that Dirk and his gang have a pattern of engaging in this kind of activity, prosecutors added in details about a Chicago murder that they alleged that Dirk and his gang was a part of. But like I said, they dropped this third indictment 2 months before the trial was scheduled to start. And that gets us to the hearing today, which was to see if the judge should sever these two new added charges and this added information about the Chicago murder, or if the judge should allow it all into this trial, but because it was added so late, that means the trial would have to be delayed because all of the attorneys would need time to prepare for the extra charges, the extra witnesses, the extra evidence, conduct some interviews, etc. And from the minute today's hearing began, the judge very clearly was leaning towards severing these added counts. At one point during the hearing, the judge reminded the government that they've, quote, had months, over a year to argue what they need to prove this case, but they instead chose to exercise strategy and belatedly decided to bring this indictment. And the judge also brought up that this Chicago murder was brought up in the second superseding indictment. But when Dirk's team said that it should be excluded because it wasn't related, the government didn't put up much of a fight and instead just chose to withdraw the evidence. The judge also asked the government if they've spoken to Robinson's mother regarding what she thinks about the updates to the case and the possible justice for her son being delayed. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but it's worth noting, generally speaking, severances aren't typically granted unless there is some clear kind of prejudice or a really good reason for someone to be severed. And that's especially the case when there's a conspiracy charge, meaning if it's alleged that the co-defendants got together and plotted to carry out a crime, it's very unlikely for the defendants to be severed from each other. But this newest severance request isn't for the defendants to be severed. It's for the charges to be severed, which the judge said is very different. Now, during the hearing, the prosecutors tried to ask the judge if they could give him some more argument in writing as to why the charges should not be severed, but the judge said no. The hearing today lasted for about 40 minutes, and then about an hour after it ended, the judge issued this ruling ordering that the additional counts and the Chicago murder be severed. More specifically, the judge said, quote, "The court exercises its undoubted discretion for the reasons argued in the motion to sever counts and for the reasons discussed at the hearing. In particular, the clarity of issues for the jurors in the Los Angeles trial outweighs the inconvenience to the second set of jurors in the Vicar trial." During the hearing, they kept talking about how inconvenient it is to have to get a second set of jurors if the trial is separate. But here the judge is saying that inconvenience doesn't outweigh his reason for separating these counts. The judge goes on to say it has been and remains the court's intention that the Los Angeles trial will include all admissible evidence that is not unduly prejudicial under Rule 403. He goes on to say, the government chose to withdraw evidence of the Chicago incident in the Los Angeles trial. In other words, defendants Banks, Wilson, and Lindsay will be tried together on counts 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the TSI on August 20th, 2026 at 8:30 a.m. Trial will proceed every day from Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. Also, at the risk of being Captain Obvious, let me just say, in case it's not clear, this ruling is considered a win for Durk, because anytime prosecutors can show a jury that a defendant has done or is connected to more than one bad thing, they use that to help show that the defendant has done other bad things.
Exactly. It shows that, you know what, not just this crime right here, but this guy did other crimes as well. You know what I mean? So they try to connect all these crimes, put it all together to really show that this guy's a really bad person. And I think at the end of this trial, I think y'all should find this guy guilty. You know, that's what a lot of prosecutors really try to do. But the judge saying, nah, not today, not on my watch.
It's one of the reasons why racketeering charges can be so powerful, because it allows prosecutors to introduce evidence of acts they say furthered an enterprise versus evidence that only has to do with the crime at hand. So in this situation, Durk's team had previously argued that the Chicago murder should not be allowed in because it could cause jurors to judge Durk based on that incident instead of if prosecutors have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he directed the murder for hire of Robinson. And actually, during the hearing today, the judge told the prosecutors, quote, "You think you will have a better chance to win if the Chicago count is tried with the Los Angeles murder. That's obvious." So again, the prosecutors wanted the Chicago murder in to show that Durk and these defendants have a pattern of doing this kind of thing. So the fact that it's now severed and that information cannot come in, that is why today's ruling is considered a win for the defense. It doesn't mean Durk has won the case, but it does mean that the jury will have a more narrow case to decide. Does that make sense? So that's that. The trial will move forward in a little over a month, and we'll see how it goes. And just to be clear, those other counts don't just go away. The judge and the attorneys will have to find another date for that trial, but it's safe to assume that Durk's team will probably file a motion asking for those charges to be dismissed. And at the hearing today, the judge said he would be open to hearing those arguments. So again, we'll see what happens.
As you can see right there, man, the guy with the gray on right here, man, that's Brian Steele. Pretty hell of a lawyer. You know, I mean, he was in Rapper Young Thug case last year as well. So Lil Durk got a good team right there. You know what I mean? He really got a good team right there. I know Durk's spending a lot of money on these lawyers right here, man. But listen, man, this is I Am Not a Lawyer. She's go to YouTube channel. Make sure y'all give her a follow. Make sure I give her a like. I do follow her channel as well. So now let's go in to see, listen to what Lil Durk's lawyer had to say. You know what I mean? This is his legal team right here. And they came outside the courtroom, and this is what they said right here.
Our incredible colleague, Christy O'Connor, said there's not a lot to actually say given the thoroughness of his Honor's analysis of everything that was filed. So the docket really speaks for itself. There was incredible filings and briefings done, and such a great job by Ms. O'Connor. And so we appreciate the fact that His Honor, it was one of those days that makes it so rewarding to be a trial attorney when a judge takes everything that was submitted and goes through it so thoroughly and in such great detail. And so I'll ask you that was in the courtroom and then have read the filings to rely on His Honor's questions today and the points that he made. And as you, but most importantly, as our innocent client, Durk Banks, and I emphasize, our innocent client, Durk Banks, is waiting. We are looking forward to the close of business today when we get this order so that we can see if we can be at this courthouse on August 20th of 2026 for the trial that we've been working on and preparing for 22 months. So we appreciate you all being here today. But we're super excited for his Honor's order to come out today, and we so appreciate the thoroughness that took place in that courtroom today. So with that being said, we're not going to do any questions, but we appreciate everybody who's here today. Thank you. We're going to be.
So there it is, Lil Durk's lawyer and his team right there behind him. I don't know, guys. Like, this is gonna be pretty tough, you know what I mean? Because they already got a text message saying that Lil Durk said, you know, who of the guys that was going to kill Lil Pab, well, Quanah Rondo, and ended up killing Lil Pab, Quanah Rondo's cousin. The text message said, "Don't use my card," meaning don't buy anything using my card. You know what I mean? So that right there with the text message that the court really using right there. You know what I mean? And Little Dirk had like 6, 7 flights as well, but this is crazy. You know what I mean? It just wow. You know, and I don't know. Will he beat this case? It's gonna be tough. I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be tough, man. But this right here is a win for Lil Durk. That the jury is really gonna just be set on just trial here, not this trial, but this everything going, this information that they got just from this murder and stuff like that, not the other murders or whatever they trying to pin on Lil Durk. You know, but it's gonna be tough. I can't say if he's gonna win this case or not. You know what I mean? It's too soon to say. You know, but listen, man, let me know your thoughts in the comments about this whole situation. Y'all think Lil Durk gonna win this case? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, y'all.